What would you do if I poured you a drink? Would you sit down and talk with me? Lend me your ear and I'll bring you along. We can split the day rate 50-50. Oh, baby, I get by. Oh, and all I need is somebody, yeah. Oh, I'm gonna get high. Baby, I need somebody. Oh, all I need is somebody. Oh, I'm gonna get high.
In this episode, we are joined remote style through Zoom. It's our first Zoom podcast with commercial photographer Chris Crisman and also our co-host coming in from El Paso, David, the Dr. Parrish. Chris, thanks for joining us. Thanks for hopping on the podcast.
Hey, Gary, thanks so much. Happy to be here with you guys. We love the opportunity and excited to chat.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting time too. You know, we've kind of talked on and off over the years, and I've been following your work, which is just absolutely phenomenal.
Thank you.
Kind of give us a little background on what type of work you do, where you specialize, and kind of like your journey into photography.
Yeah, thanks for that as well. You know, I've been a commercial photographer going on about 15 years. I started out as in school, in college. It was right at that cusp of film going out the door, so to speak, and digital, the real rise. And so I had a really great opportunity to kind of make the transition. I worked for a couple different photographers for about a year and a half right out of school, and then was part of working with you probably know Bill Kramer of Wonderful Machine. He brought me into his business prior to Wonderful Machine, and we had a great experience there. And he's really big influence. And then have been shooting. I started out with magazine portraiture. Personal projects have always been really important to me. Outside spaces, but really, like over the years, it's just been a kind of push ourselves into the next thing. From landscape that I love so much, it was portraiture, and from portraiture it was a lot more studio, but also environmental, and then it was into lifestyle work, and all the while always having a stylistic look and feel that was just something that hopefully is a signature to what we do, and then added video, and have been directing for about 7 years. Our first broadcast commercial we shot in 2012. Haven't done a ton of broadcast, but a lot of motion, I think, prior to where we are now. The pandemic, I would say 80% of our projects were video, and there was a lot of kind of the sweet spot for us is we do a lot of healthcare, and with that we're doing something that has a post-heavy element, sometimes video, sometimes stills, really something technical that needs a problem solution, but then also filling out a broader library of lifestyle work, portraiture work, and really being kind of uber efficient. That was the place of our business prior to all this, and now right now all of our focus is on what the future will look like as we all come out of this together. And there's some things I'd like to talk about today if we have the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, let's jump right into it. This pandemic has put creatives in a tough spot. And I don't think anyone really saw this coming. Obviously, the experts did. They've made movies about it. But how has this pandemic halted or changed or altered your business and your the money?
It's serious. this particular period of time, really the first end of February, beginning of March, I was just like hyper focused on what could go wrong in our environment. We had my essentially lieutenant and really partner in our business, Robert Lucen, who's an incredible producer. He was going on paternity leave. We were releasing Women's Work, the book with Simon & Schuster, the same week. And then we were implementing a change in our overall model and separated from our commercial agent, Heather Elder, and all within 10 days. So we were just zoomed in on what was going on around us to not let the walls cave in, so to speak. So right around that time, we made we're really thinking about this idea of what this is going to look like down the road, and if we needed to start making solutions now. And obviously, I'm very glad we did that. But to speak to your real question of immediate impact, yeah, we had jobs booked and they're gone. We had some of them are on like the big pause button, which is the most like unknown. And then some of it is we don't know. Some jobs need to move forward with some art. And so I think I'm seeing, I'm hearing, I'm talking to a lot of people, and some things will move to illustration, some things will move to CGI, some things will use a lot of great stock photography available. On the whole, for us, we most likely will begin pushing out overall campaigns that we have had stored away. But our focus really, like I said, is right now is a time to it's not the time to gather, but making a solution that will be kind of a level 1 transition out of this. So
yeah, so it must have been last week sometime we had connected and texted a little bit, and linked to something that you're working on, and I just remember thinking, like, how the hell did you put this together so quickly? So let's talk about that, like, because I mean, honestly, it is a solution. Probably not immediately, not for next week, but as we graduate into starting to see that money, starting to see jobs be awarded, this is a solution to keep that curve, flattened essentially. So let's dive right into it. Like, what is it?
Yeah, business wise, our curve is already flat, right? We're there. I think my biggest goals are, we've wanted to make solutions for now. The video we put out, we shot on, I believe it was March 12th. We started moving the gears on that on March 5th. So it was about 7 days from ideation to R&D, very fast, and then actually shooting on the 12th. And that was for, what does this look like later down the road? I wish there's a little bit of feedback that says I should have been more specific about this being maybe a 4-month solution, 6-month solution, and beyond. I could see a lot of protocols changing to a model like this in the future, way future. In the short term, I want our industry to be able to work prior to 4 months, 6 months. So one of the pieces of feedback I've received is like, well, you just can't shoot with people. So obviously that's a problem. So I wanted to solve the idea of no one in the studio except the talent. And we've done that. We've done that theoretically. It's still using a lot of technology we were using before. It's still it's using some new solutions. And I think the thing to focus on is I'm saying no gathering, nobody working with anybody else in person, but really almost every role, every important team member that we worked with prior to this would be involved in that process. This is an industry hit, but this is a global economy hit. And I believe that the people that supported you before, like we've got to keep that cycle going as much as possible. And they all have really important roles.
Yeah. So kind of what's in the video, and will that video be public now for people listening to this? Can they go to your page and watch it?
So the level 3 video is on our page. It's also on our YouTube. It's pretty easy to find now, and hopefully you can link to that one after this. The level 1 video, we are in production, but shooting a video of the thing that you are starting from scratch, but actually can't make. No one in the same space would do it. We don't want to, right? So we have to shoot. Like we have gear here, we have gear here. So you're applying the new protocol for cleaning gear, getting that in one place. The idea that like literally, I'm not going to be in the studio. Like I'm going to virtually be the photographer. We're going to operate everything at a distance. So we're taking our time to do the right thing and be as responsible as possible with all the messaging, but also just kind of keeping our ears open. We put this out there publicly as quickly as we could just to get innovation and throw this idea out and let other people come up with other solutions. I mean, this is a whole industry problem, and really it should, transcend more than just photography industry. So we'll get that out there as soon as we can, but it's complicated. And really, if I'm here and I'm shooting someone there or shooting, working out the meta level of this is pretty wild. So we're getting close.
Sounds crazy.
Yeah. 2 weeks.
I mean, if we put a man on the moon 60 years ago, this shouldn't be that big of a fucking problem, right? So what you're talking about is, Zoom, a collaborative video direction and feedback loop where everyone has access to kind of a clear picture, clear communication, clear direction to create digital assets. So but you mentioned, kind of walk me more through. You said you're not there. So you're in the room with the talent, or you're not in the room with the talent?
I'm not in the room with the talent. So it's a strange organizational system here. I'm talking about levels. I think level 1 is like there's only talent. In the studio, only talent. So everything in the normal production just gets pulled out like an accordion. So like there's a real pre-light that's happening with either just myself or just my first assistant. There's a real digital tech. They are not on site. There is everyone we used before. Like we have an incredible wardrobe stylist. A lot of them across the country. They are critical. But instead of, hey, here's the talent, here's the talent sizes, go shop. It's here's the talent, start working with the talent. Utilize their existing wardrobe. This is what we're going for. And that communication, which, we thought this would be so hard, but it's kind of like forcing the video conference. You're utilizing more tools. You're able to be visual, you're able to show like in real time, let's work through each problem as it comes up. So, being specific about what the desired wardrobe is. Yes, we need to be more specific in the pre-production, but when you go into the actual shoot, it'll be dialed in. There will be more, I think like if a wardrobe stylist had 2 shop days, 2 shoot days, and a return day, now they're going to have, 2 shoot days, 2 or 3, maybe 4 days on the front end. And the return days are really just coordination of actual talent sending back web purchase only wardrobe. Again, details we're working out, but that's all that does slow it down. And, but we're finding ways to speed it up. So do I sound like I'm from another planet?
No.
How are you controlling? Are you remote controlling a camera then, or how are you doing that?
In which part? Like
So
just
so
the
you
actual,
said that like you're not physically there when you're shooting the model or shooting the talent.
yeah, we are, and in another in a week or two, we'll be happy to have some our main tech guy on this. Right now, while we're doing this, he's having another meeting, with someone in the real broadcast live stream, like that AV big conference.
Yeah.
Those guys are super talented, and that's their lane. And so we're trying to recruit some people from that lane into what we're doing, because a lot of them don't have any work right now. And they, for different, we all want to go back to work. Like we all want,
Right.
this has been an incredible industry, incredible run. And anyone in any industry, we know how much we missed it, or we miss it now, and how much we cared for it now. So like, the collaboration as a whole has been wild across industries, and how we're kind of getting an opinion from here, and then talking to this person about this, and then bouncing this off. It's a whole different world, right? Look at us.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Is the idea to create a product or a suite of hardware and software and instruction, and then license or sell, or is just the idea is to create it so we can get back to work as usual, and we're able to give this ability to the companies and the talent and, the photographers? Yeah.
I mean, what originally was driving and is still really driving it for me is there's, to be honest, there's some amount of fear and there's some amount of panic, but it's not exclusively for me. Like I've got a pretty big team to support, but then our clients are, if they can't do what they normally do, their teams start to shrink and jobs go away. And so as a whole, we're trying to preserve those. As far as like something that is monetized on my end, like a product, it's just not for me. I'm not stimulated by that, to be honest. Like I'm not in this at this moment. It's all, we're keeping it all open. Some of the things that I'm not saying are because what I found, although we've gotten incredible amount of praise, what we put out there is more than ever hyper criticized, and it's devoid of context. Does that make sense? In that, like, level 3 shoot that we did, I was never at any point being like, hey, we can just, this will do it. Just run in there and put some gloves on the hair makeup stylist and we'll stand far apart. Like that's not a solution today. And it wasn't intended to be. But again, that's probably a 4 or 6 month thing. Let's hope for that. But when you're doing something that is really pushing outside the process and the protocol that you've ever done, then it's like a kind of wonderful world of solving problems and seeing new problems. And when we come out of this fully, there are some things that will apply to our business that, who knows? I've got one that is just like, I'm not going to share it right now because again, I have to test all the tech and everything is moving slow to get us pieces of things. But I like my role as photographer and how I operated as a photographer 2 months ago, I see in the future, even when we're out of this, being very, very different. So, but that's just me.
Yeah. So what roadblocks have you run into so far? And, for anyone listening, who are you currently looking for to help, or what solutions do you guys need?
I think right now it's more like dig into what I'm trying to say about here's everything that we can share. Here's the inspiration why we're sharing it, and dig into your own problems. Like everyone had their business before and they knew how they solved and how they served. And going forward, anything that you glean from us and you can apply it to you, like that moves our economy again, responsibly, number one, safety, number one, and then moving things forward. If 100 people are moved forward by 10 days, that's real, because those 100 people can then activate another 100 people, and the impact, the domino effect of that is like come on, it's just so easy to process, you know, it's exciting. You know, I'm enthusiastic about this. But you know, there is still still panic sitting back here. We want to do have as much impact as we can, and then, you know, we'll sort it out in the wash. As far as recruiting more people, I'm processing it all as much. I'm recruiting about one person a day for the last 10 days. And it's really amazing to see how much people want to help. And it's, I think we appreciated, I think there's a comfort in working, you know? Do you feel that?
Oh yeah. I mean, so much of
Yeah, I mean, for sure.
your identity is wrapped up in who you are. And when you lose that and you don't, you know, have anything to do and you're stuck at home. And I think one of the common denominators that I'm seeing in all these Zoom meetings is like, you'll see a kid jump in the background. You're like, no, come on, daddy's working. It's just like adjusting to that time, you know, with your kids. Like, you know, my daughter just walked in, you know, home from kind of like her online school, and now
Right.
she's done. But normally I wouldn't be home at this time of the day. I wouldn't be home till, you know, 5 or 6. So it's like, you know, just trying to find that my place, I guess, in this
Yep.
new lifestyle, which is, you know, part of it's exciting because it's this new thing that you're not used to. Because, you know, first, you know, at certain times in your life, you get used to something and you kind of get run down, right? So this is exhilarating for everyone, whether it's a good or bad thing. And just trying to find your just creative voice to continue it. And for so many people, lost your income and your kind of identity is, you know, tied to that career. So I love the idea of hearing, you know, you're trying to create a solution.
Yeah.
So you know, if there's, obviously you're going to need some clients for this. So are you looking for test clients that might want to shoot with this, that might have, you know, a little bit of a budget left over to kind of test this?
You know what, my immediate clients, and this sounds crazy. Yes, I'm looking for all the clients. In the short term, no, we have a handful. Again, I work in healthcare, pharmaceuticals. Like we do a lot of that advertising work. And there's other really incredible clients that are outside of that too. But the way it works effectively and how we're trying to impact is the idea that as a brand that's been being developed for, you know, 15 years, 5 years, 6 years, at this certain phase that they had like a announced street launch date of, you know, call it September 10th or something. You know, they have a lot of FDA approvals. They're at that last stage of getting the marketing, both, you know, the verbiage and the visuals approved. And they have like their slotted, you know, hey, number 72, you're up. And if they don't have that there and ready to go, they loop back in line. And if, you know, there are very few products in that sector that I think are, they all matter. It's all unique, and each one is taken a whole lifetime. That's many people's careers to get to that point. So that's the level of familiarity I have with that. As far as other things, yeah, I think we'll be looking to. My hope, you know, there is such a production rollout of this. Once, if we were able to obtain a exemption to be working, then I think we would have a very busy month in May. But it's also a lot of educating, because whereas, you know, before we were 100% efficient, and every year that 100, you know, maybe we were. It depends on the context, but if we were our 100% in 2019 was extremely productive, and now this first level 1 solution, it's not pretty, you know, but it creates a studio shoot with talent that are very specific, that would be very specific to a brand. Again, one model in a studio at a time, and then I would be pairing with a post house. It would be CGI created backgrounds. images from our library for compositing. I mean, it's very similar to a lot of our work before. Like if you look on our portfolio, there is I would say more work shot in studio than on location. Maybe it's 50-50.
Yeah. I want to bring up something you mentioned, and that's obtain an exemption to work. And like, what exactly does that mean? Is there a law right now that is preventing certain people from doing certain things? And then I know it's state by state, but what does that mean for you? And like, what do you know about your state that you're in right now about preventing you from working?
So in Pennsylvania, we are considered a non-essential business. And so it's hard where the restrictions are coming from, that it is a state mandate currently, and we're seeking an exemption for that. And with that, we're trying to put in a protocol of safety first. And at the most important factor of that is all of our productions are insured. Our clients from their end need to be insured. The agencies need to be insured, and it needs to come all together at the same time. So these, in diving deeper and deeper and deeper to move something forward together down the road, you're realizing the problems now are they take in a lot of departments. So step one of being allowed, then we can report up the chain. This is the protocol we produced ourselves to be exempt. Let's talk to your insurance agent. Our insurance agent. That is another conversation that another couple people from our team are having right now as well. Talking with our main insurer about, okay, what are the problems with this? And what, the next step, once we move to, I'm in the studio, talent's in the studio, what is it? Is it a physical barrier? Are we shooting for plexi? Are we, am I in a cube? Am I, we can solve it. Like, we can all solve it.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No,
I think the most awesome thing about this is that, again, like Gary's saying, we've been on so many of these calls with Zoom, and so many people are just basically like, I get it's a wash, like I'll get back to it whenever I get back to it. And I think the overarching message that we've been pushing is just like, okay, so what can we do? Like, what can you do? So let's stop focusing on the can'ts, and let's talk about what we can do in this moment to get back to work and start doing at least something. Maybe it's doing screen captures and doing tutorials that way. So I think it's just really refreshing to hear somebody being like, okay, well, here's the rules, and now we're going to figure out how we can get as close to what we used to do as humanly possible, even if it means I have to build a plexiglass box and stuff myself in it with a camera sticking out to it. Like, labs have protocols to deal with this stuff all the time. Why can't we? So I think it's really refreshing to hear that.
I love hearing that as well. Thank you. We're human, and we all adapt quickly, and we adapt well. And this isn't like 2008. That was one sector, financial only, and that affected everyone. But this is global, universal. We're all playing with a new set of rules. Now, locally, state, there are some different rules, and it'll move. And it's like, no matter what, once again, safety, responsibility. Like, I'm trying to do things for our clients and our team, but if I were to put someone in harm's way or danger, like, what's the, spite your nose, what's that one go? Yeah. So I love hearing that. I think that's it. Like, and also, I gotta say, like, if this is really hard time, and how any individual is processing this to take care of themselves first, and to take care of their core and their family, that's priority one still. Like, I want more people to move, but you've got to have that in you to be like, this is what I should be doing right now. And like, I'm inspired. Let's go forward. But if you feel like I need to spend more time jumping on the trampoline with my kids, like that's amazing too. Right. So hopefully we move a lot of people, and hopefully, most importantly, that we're still supporting each other, no matter what you choose to do with this time, like anything positive. I'm seeing, like, I was the cross industry things that are happening are like, we will be affected by this in some unfortunate ways, but like, we're going to come out of this with like, holy, we made it through that together, and look at the innovation, and look at the new ways we're doing, and look at the partnerships, and look at the love. It's going to be great. And we'll get there. You
can cuss on this show. This is not a family show.
I didn't. I cuss much more than I'm showing right now. I'll say that.
So there's a lot of, it's hard to figure out where to get information now. You're getting a lot of it, but it's almost like a fire hose. So You mentioned earlier, you figured out that your sector was a non-essential. Where did you go to figure out that specific information? An advisor? Is there like a state website that people can go to?
Yeah, the government in our state, the leadership has been really strong. So again, I think it was right around. It was real early that I had some personal, nothing in our family, no contractions, but like things around our world. Like you're worried about your kids when you're hearing weird things. So you're just, your ears are very open. But I would say the communication lines and the leadership in the state in particular has been incredible. I felt like a number of the governors have really been incredible leaders. Ohio and California and Andrew Cuomo in New York and Governor Wolf, closest to home, of course, just really been strong. So, how people are processing this is a response to what the leadership is. And I think when you have, if you have mixed messages in that leadership, it gets it's confusing. I mean, this is hard to process on the whole, but then you add like one leader saying, hey, it's fine, and one leader saying, lock it down. So it's a mandate. We have another. My wife is a developer and designer, and we have a property that's just really, really going to be amazing space that she's been working on. It was just about go time for like demo was done, initial framing was done, ready to go, and it was cut. And so she was working a little bit ahead on what the rules were on that and trying to get that team going again. To me, is incredible. It's a little off topic here, so I'll reel that back in. Okay.
No, it's good. So, yeah. I mean, outside of it just being a super, dick thing to keep doing, to be out in public and to keep, what actually happens if you're caught working? Like,
I don't know, but for me, again, we do kind of larger scale production. So again, the bigger they get, the more risk you have in a normal climate. So we have to be very vigilant. I think, I'm just recommending, like, again, this, I know it's fearful to have to say no. But if it's not within the rules, is it really worth it? And again, it was here early. I mean, it was in the States, it was Washington State, particularly early, as I remember it. And then it just, it's come on really strong. And the next 2 weeks are going to be really, really important. As far as, I don't know, it's a confusing time. I went to Target on Saturday. I didn't want to. We've been doing everything online and had really nice, strange process. The switch. I don't know if you're dealing with this yet. Of like, we have to give you a substitution. It's cool if it's like, okay, this was one type of this thing. Here's the other one, but it's like, you couldn't get black beans, but now we're gonna get sweet peas. It's like, it's a little bit of a jump. That only happened once. But anyway, I went out to Target to pick up an online order, and I was like, if it's not crowded, I'm going to go in and see if they have more stuff and just kind of get a little ahead and think about the rest of our team. Maybe we can do some drop-offs. And I did it, and I was just kind of shocked. Like, I didn't see a lot of people working there that were not a lot of masks. I went in looking like a unique character from Fortnite. Like this mask and these weird goggles, and I got like a pink gloves like on, and had like done disinfectant, and like, it was, and I wasn't the only person that looked that wild, but I felt like that was the responsible play, and I felt more secure doing it. I was never a germaphobe. I don't know.
Until now.
I all behaviors now are, yes, I'm a germaphobe. I'm looking forward to not being a germaphobe someday, not today. So yeah, it's wild, everyone's perception, because again, like, there's not one clear voice of leadership that is working ahead to slow it down. I think it's getting a lot closer though, which I think is great.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time figuring out what we can do. Or so, not working in public, it's not business as usual. But what are the rules now for just going to Target? Like walking in the park. I saw someone post in San Francisco, if you stand too close to someone, you can get like a
$1,000 fine. Yeah.
Somebody was out surfing, and I saw a post of some surfer getting a big ticket. So like, what's the difference between surfing and then, going to a park and walking with my daughter, even though if I'm, standing away from everyone? And then on top of that, there's 50 different states, so there's 50 different rules.
Yeah.
I don't.
It's so confusing, right? Our practice has been try to limit as much as possible as a like outside exposure. We live in it was like a 1950s development in the burbs outside of Philadelphia, and I see a lot more people out walking, and it's cool. But I know when someone they live in the same house, because they're walking next to each other like you would expect. And then I know when you're doing a meetup with a friend and there's like this 10 feet walking, which gets a little complicated because the road's only so wide. So people were like avoiding in a neat way. And what it does in that sense is it makes a nice laugh, and you're connecting with people that feel a little bit extra disconnected at the moment. So that's cool. I did see that somehow, maybe it was an Apple News thing about the Manhattan Beach, someone getting fined. I think it's the idea that like everyone take this seriously, because it's not that idea of flatten the curve is like, if we all get on the same page, we'll be back out of this. If we don't get out, that's based on stats and numbers and what we think we know about this right now, right? It is a SARS. It is a coronavirus. It's very similar to SARS, and those behaviors, will help. But we're learning as we go, right? I don't know. I didn't understand the beach thing. So
you guys have a good memory of what SARS was like? What, 10 years ago, 12 years ago? I don't really remember that at all, which leads me to believe that, how big of a thing was it that you guys can remember?
It wasn't as big of a deal for America, but I think everybody was still freaking out, kind of projecting like what happens when it comes here. It wasn't quite like the Ebola scare was, where people were like, this is now made it to America, at least as I remember.
Yeah, not a huge impact. When I'm referencing SARS, it was like in my early research about like trying to understand COVID-19. And so, let's think about this again. Like, that very early, and probably some people might still be saying this, it's like, oh, well, they're making like linear comparisons and data to oh, it's the flu, it's the this, it's the this, and this only did this, so let's not take this seriously. And like with SARS, for example, the long-term effects of those that actually contracted it and recovered, there's some negative long-term on cardiopulmonary system. So like, the flu, we expect to get the flu every year, and that's just a part of life. We take a vaccine that limits the overall, that's less spread. But this, like, what if we see it as something more serious? Will we all take it more seriously? So, yeah.
Yeah. one thing that blew me away that I've been trying to always talk about other people is that the flu that we get every year is always evolving. And that was actually a human-based flu, right? So we had natural, and feel free to correct me at any point because I'm certainly not a doctor, but this helped me kind of understand. So that's a natural-based immunization built into us, and it's always kind of evolving. We have a vaccine. But the crazy shit about COVID-19 is it made the jump and started in an animal, and then I guess changed again in order for humans to give it to other humans. And then now there are 2 different strains of it from what I've read and understand. And I could be just spewing more bad information, but like we have
there's now there's like 8 strands now.
There's 8.
What I was reading this morning. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know what their various degrees are, but yeah, that's the scary thing. Is so like when we start talking about how it's impacting people, and you'll notice that, now they're starting to tell you things about like, if you're younger, first it was kind of like, well, if you're not old, then I guess it's okay. Even though I'm not sure how that was ever okay, but, there was at least some talk of if you're older now, they're saying like, there's people my age that are legitimately dying from this thing. And I'm like, hey, that's insane.
And the news is coming at us so fast. I think I'm actually missing a lot of news right now because we're just grinding on these ideas, and again, bringing more people in and wanting to serve our clients and want to, put some inspiration while producing this over here and a little bit of spreading the message and trying to, I'm trying to gain most of the information specifically to what we're trying to solve. And then outside of that, I don't know. I think that like listening to the doctors, important, listening to the science, important, trying to care for each other and be let everyone be who's processing it however they are, as long as you're following the big ideas. So,
well, let's talk about something positive. What was like
I was trying to push us there.
What was your biggest win of 2019? Like what was a project that really stood out for you that you were, it was your favorite or most profitable or whatever that might be?
We had an incredible year on the whole. We track our bids, we track our wins, we track our losses. It was interesting. We had a few cancellations. Those are big, wonderful wins. Cancellations in 2020 are very different than cancellations in 2019. Cancellations in 19 were about we didn't have it organized right. In 2020, it's going to be a different protocol on some of those things. But the good news stuff, we had some really large scale photo plus video plus CGI and visual effects projects that were really cool solves that I loved. I think the projects that I were like the most rewarding were like good communication and camaraderie the whole way through, and the ones that weren't, they just became drama situations. And I think we'll be able to lean into the people that are better communicators coming out of this. I was working on women's work. I was working on our book quite a bit in 19, and we finished production on that in the fall, and that was a real marathon and a wild finish, but we got it there, and that's something I'm so proud of, and like the rewards of that will come down the road, and I know they're helping some people right now, so there's that. And then I did a quick trip to Oaxaca, down in the state of Oaxaca, but also city of Oaxaca in Mexico. And that was just awesome. Like I'm a big fan of mezcal, and really over the last 2 years kind of got into that, and it, really wanted to go shoot a project. That was so cool. I did have 18 hours in the fetal position, But besides that, it was really one of my all-time favorite shoots. So.
What's the story? Like, we got to know the story. You just can't drop it in there and just walk away. Like, why were you in the fetal position for 18 hours?
You know, like there are.
Was it mescaline?
It was mezcal. I'm a big fan. If you want some recommendations on anything like that, there's some really good sites that actually there's a company that is delivering to your door single producer mezcals that are really incredible. It's called Maguey Malate, and you can send that link later. So you should check them out. So anyhow, we were working with them when we were down there. It was a personal project, but it was tied in with them. We have a good partnership going on. So anyhow, we were just making it happen, you know, like a little more guerrilla style. And we had a real hard morning on a shoot. One of the days, I think it was shoot day 2 or shoot day 3. And or on shoot day 2, we stopped at a roadside restaurant and had lunch. And I was midway through eating, and I looked over at the other table, and there was like a colony of flies on the table. And I was just like, man, maybe we should like have went just a little further down the road or something. But it was really tasty. But the next morning when we were shooting at sunrise, it was my stomach was just breaking down. It was brutal. And so, 18 hours, and we were back at it the next day and had like caught up. It was our last day of shooting, and incredible experience.
I'm looking at your website right now. I'm gonna see if I can share this puppy on the screen, if that's all right with you. We can maybe just go through.
Thank you.
Your homepage. Oh yeah, here we go.
There it is.
You guys see that all right?
Absolutely. Yep. Thanks for sharing. Yeah.
No, I can't see what I'm sharing.
It's okay. You're good right there. It did a little bit of a scaling thing.
Okay, so that's good right there. You guys can see just your portfolio.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Let's go full screen.
Yeah, there you go. And that's a mix of different personal projects. Like this was a boxing project in Philadelphia, shot at famous Front Street Gym. You may recognize that from Creed. Really incredible space, and it was a video stills project that we did one shoot day, and it was just perfect, and loved it. And really amazing fighters, these guys. And this is from Women's Work. There's also a mini doc. This is Sadie Samuels. She has an incredible story of our shoot day, like a grinder with myself and Robert and Ezra. And she was not feeling well and thought she just like had a hangover or something. And turned out she had appendicitis. And like she did a whole day of lobster fishing and a shoot with us, and then went to the hospital.
So Women's Work, you've talked about this a few times. I have yet to take a look through it, but let's talk about this. Where did this come from? And
it was early 2016. I was in New York for a portfolio show, a meeting with our producer, and we just kind of a little bit of small talk about Philadelphia. And just kind of moved to, she was like, I have a friend that just moved to Philly. She was a designer, web designer, graphic designer, and she wanted to make a change and decided to she wanted to become a butcher. And I was just, there was a kind of a gut reaction of, wow, I've never met a female butcher. And then that started I'd really love to make that picture. And then, 2 weeks later, we're photographing Heather Merrill Thomason. And then it just was like, this is an incredible project. Like I'm seeing it. Our team was seeing it. the women we were working with were seeing it, and it was a life changer for us, for me, and such cool opportunities. Like right there, I mean, these are sisters that are like the top level stunt women in Hollywood, Heidi and Renee, and like it's wild, like Captain Marvel, like you're looking at her, it just such cool people to be around. Yeah. And then next picture is actually a portrait of my mother, which there was a little bias, but it was really amazing for her to be part of it.
Nothing wrong with that.
What's that?
I said nothing wrong with that.
No. Yeah, it's all good. We actually did an interview right before all of where we're at now. Right before that was on Marketplace, and she was incredible. And like, it wasn't on with intention, but I think she, for a second, thought she got jammed on a question with Kai Ryssdal, and it wasn't that. He was amazing, but I was like, oh man, what's she gonna? And she just came out of it with like, she took the route of love, and it was like the best answer to a question I've ever heard, and made for such a cool spot. So. Yeah, this was amazing. And this right here with Heather, this is the first picture from the whole project, and that spawned everything else. So yeah, it was cool. We released that as a project in the fall of 2016, and if you remember political history in the fall of 16, it was timely. I didn't have the foresight of releasing it at that exact moment, but it kind of hit like a viral cycle, and right through the holidays, which was cool, and a lot of fun interviews. I think we had interviews or articles anyway in like 17 countries, and then we ended up signing with a book agent. And then I was a little like on the fence of going the full, like doing the book for a few different reasons, because my kids were a little younger and already was going to be on the road so much with our commercial, like primary commercial business. But my agent was pretty vocal on like, you committed to do this. And I was like, yeah, I've never not done something I committed to do. So here we go. And I recruited a writer who just kind of helped me get through the proposal process. Cause I don't think I'm particularly a strong writer. I didn't in the past. And so, in this book, I wanted to keep my voice as an opinion out of it as much as possible. It's my voice is in the visuals, right? Because I'm a visual storyteller. This is the voices of the women, not edited by me at all. And I have writing and on 3 pages or 4 pages in the entire book. So it's really kind of collecting and building a team or building a squad that incorporated all them to make this a book. So
what would you do differently if you had to do another book or do this one over? How would you do it differently?
That's an awesome question. I would. There were some people that we were able to use work from the original project, new work, and also some legacy work. There were a couple people that I really wanted to be part of it. That I'm bummed weren't, but going forward, if we were to do another, I could see a path with bringing some of them on, and I think our path for recruitment will be a little stronger after this. So we'll see. It's hard, it's our job. This is a really interesting conversation about this because I'm shooting people in the 4 corners of our country. We had plans to shoot some people in other countries for this, but like me to go there to do that every time, that was I can't even see that right now, and putting that, like how long that collection would take going forward. So we'll see. I'm excited about what the future holds, and like I said, with the virtual shoot, that whole idea, like things we're doing now, I will be so excited when we're back to where we were, but I think we'll do some new cool things because we never thought about it in a totally different way. We were always doing these innovative solutions and they're all job specific, but the lane and the language was always really very similar. And then we're like, okay, if we want to solve that one thing, let's do this or try this but you still had to get a chain of sign off up, with clients or agencies and then their clients and maybe legal and stuff like that. So we'll make some pretty wild solves. And we've got other things in the pipeline I don't want to talk about until we know we can do them, how we want to do them. But again, just to encourage that, like, I said it before, I don't know how everyone did their specific jobs, but get out there, try and find solutions. I was thinking about like the wedding business. I'm talking to some people from there because that's a huge industry, right? The overall, and like, what we did with, some of the ideas that we showed with level 3 that's on our site and YouTube, combined with some of the things I'm talking about with level 1, like, I think there's solves there. And maybe, again, like maybe it's not the classic weddings happening right now. I don't know that industry. I can't speak for any of them, but maybe there's a new thing and maybe there's a new solve and maybe like you're able to just help your clients with day to day. Like maybe, I don't know. Maybe I've been trying to work with like our, my kids' teachers and trying to find better solves. Like just having a single light source up there and having this backdrop, like I don't expect people to do that, but like been pushing some of my friends that are not, or really anyone that comes in our Zooms of like, hey, here's an idea. And you guys look great and you have a nice lighting setup that's actually beautiful. But can you imagine your whole career? Let's say you worked at a consulting firm and like this C-level person, there was a view, there was such a projection of who that person was. And all of a sudden, this is the new office, the one we're in right now. And that person comes in and again, like there's like a cat swinging around the ceiling fan and, a naked baby running by and, things like that are just so wild. So I think if, over the next few weeks and maybe a month or so, I think some more virtual, a lot of Zoom, a lot of WebEx, there's a ton of platforms, obviously, like seeing some uniformity and some like lock the space down a little bit more, whether it's a bed sheet and a lamp in front of you or like you have a window and then a bed sheet, just something. I think that'll be comforting. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think a lot of this is, I think we're going to see some long-term impact from this. I think a lot of companies are realizing some things like what is possible. And kind of to your point earlier, we've always done these things because this is how we were taught to do them, but we were never forced to get into this space where those possibilities were no longer possibilities. So now what? And so since we're here, I think we will see a lot of stuff change in the future where people are going to be potentially leaving things like this because some things worked better. I've already talked to a couple of friends who, their companies have more or less said, you're never going to work from the office ever again because this is actually cheaper for us and this is actually more efficient for us. And so we just didn't know before because everybody would just come here. So I do think that there will be some stuff long term that will be definitively different. And who knows? Like you're talking about before, we're really pushing into this. Well, I think we're not. The people who are leaning forward and saying how can instead of I can't, they're really going to change the game completely. And they'll be the people that emerge from this stronger because they were marketing for tomorrow today and they were figuring out how to serve their clients today. So, and then God forbid we ever have to do this again. But if we do, then at least, some people will be in a stronger position.
Yeah. I just, why we did this thing was why we made that first video for down the road was like, that's the only way I could see it. Like I learn visually, I tell the story visually, and really I had to show it. And that was like the push, like how are we going to figure this out if we're separated? So like literally the process of making the video was like fully understanding how that thing would work And then opening that door, you're just like, we were super, again, hyper focused on it. And then it was like, boom, 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 all these other ideas. So I'm, like, I love all the projects that are coming out. Like some of the cool, like in your neighborhood, long lens distance, those are like so cool. And that's great. I think for me, it was just how we operate and how, I'm essentially fueled is like, being useful, being productive, being innovative, being like solve it, and for the whole, and really our core and our extended core, and yeah, that's how we got here. So,
Chris, I know maybe in the past you've done like I think it maybe workbook or ad edge. Is that right? Did I make that up? Is that still part of your kind of advertising and marketing every year, or has that changed or gotten less?
I love both platforms. I'm pretty heavy on workbook, and I really love. I had a call. It was like middle of last week with Heidi Governman from Workbook, and it wasn't an intention to have something happen. It was like, just let's connect. Did you see this thing we did? And like, let's talk about that. And it ended up being like me wanting to coach her through, again, getting this setup of in Zoom, making that scene look a little better for her. So it was a virtual me directing, one, letting her be the person lighting, and then like, I can't see everything right now, so I want you to see do you like this better, and I was doing screen captures of after we made each change, and then put those like really quick, send off in a PDF. So like I'm getting off topic, but I love Workbook. I really love Ad Edge. I mean, I think it's a beautiful presentation. I haven't been a part of it the last couple of years, but they recently brought on someone who I think is really important in our industry, Ken Zane, who I've been close with for a long time, and right prior to this, we were doing a lot of talking about some of the cool things they're doing too. So we'll see. We do a lot of direct mail pieces, so like singular postcards, and I think the thing for us was we really liked consistency with it. I thought that was particularly important, and that was a shift when I joined. When I joined working with, brought on to Heather Elder's group, which we were working together for about 7 years. That was one of the biggest impacts. That consistency, and the last couple of years I've been really focused on the message of how we're saying what we're doing, and a lot of that work has been with Kate Chase, and she's been really integral in the last year with the book, and then also in the last 3 weeks with a lot of the messaging. She's just like for someone who, I think I communicate really well with the visuals, and I think I can talk it through really well, but like putting the words to paper for me is just more of a challenge, to be honest. And so she's really helped shape that messaging, and like has been like somewhere between a wordsmith and just an overall oracle for what we do, and saved me from situations where I was about to fall off the ladder, so to speak. So I think it's what you're saying, how much you're saying it, how you're trying to connect. I think all of that's really important. Yeah.
Are you, so you mentioned that you left your last rep, Heather Elder. Are you going in the direction of no representation, or just kind of
Correct.
in a
Correct
period?
Yeah. Like Heather is, I will say, I think she's just an incredible agent. She's an incredible leader. It wasn't like I'm leaving my agent. It really was, we had really grown internally, and kind of, Robert in particular, like his relationship with the clients, and being like, we wanted to be production focused, and just sometimes we're just kind of working on top of each other, and it just made sense for us. But like, I think agents are incredible, and at a time like this, like Heather Elder is doing this really incredible webcast it's been like the last 2 Fridays, and she's brought other people from different parts of the industry in and having like a really healthy conversation that is bringing multiple voices. And so when I was talking about, oh, I'm reaching out to this group and I'm reaching out to this group and all that, like you literally are getting a really nice packaged bit of that through it's actually a workbook, I will say, workbook sponsored webcast. And Heidi Governman, who I had the conversation with last week, who's incredible, she's bringing a lot of these people together. So you're hearing from like producers on the agency side, freelance producers, photographers, other industries. I'm not even sure who's coming on this Friday, but I recommend that to a lot of people to just get perspective. And I think it'll go further into things that, reach people in different ways. And again, it's just being open to these ideas right now and then finding a little comfort. Like we are in it.
Yeah.
And it is a hard line stat. It's everyone who's listening right now has a mild panic or more. And that's totally healthy. And you're not alone. Like it is so scalable that no matter where you're at, if you're starting or you're, you've been doing it for
years.
Yeah. You know what? It is universal. And like, again, work together. If you can find it to just do a couple Zooms a day with people like in your community, in your network, reach out a little more. Like let's spread good information. Again, I'm not worried about like we don't have a ton of secrets. It's only the secrets right now are just so I don't look like an idiot in 3 months. So
trying to figure it out. Yeah, I mean, I think what a lot of people, and this came up in our Zoom call we had this morning with a bunch of creatives, I think a lot of things that people are feeling and where they're really digging in is kind of the loss of identity. I mean, we are content creators, and when you take that away from us and we can't share art and we can't share, like, we identify as photographers, we identify as these things, and you've taken a major portion of our identity away. I think that's really what a lot of people are struggling with is well, without this, who am I or what am I? And so again, I just think it's super refreshing to see somebody that's out there being like, I'm not giving it up. I'm just going to figure out how to make it work.
Yeah, I would say this to that question. Again, we all come to the different phases of this unique situation at our own times. And I'm, early on was surprised maybe by someone who wasn't where I was at, but now it's like, I understand, let's talk in a week and see where we're at and see what we can do with each other. Right. So, right. But that to speak to right where you're at, like that identity, bring it in a little bit more like, okay, like let's get in the mirror. And like, if I thought I was a content creator, that's a pretty big realm, right?
Right.
What else were you? Like, were you a content creator and a spreading this, or are you an educator? Are you a leader? Are you an author? And maybe like some people might buckle in and just talk about, really be introspective and reflective of their own situation. But like, think to everyone, like you were more than just a photographer. Like you were solving some real problems. You were able to solve, like everyone here who's done at least say 5 shoots, like they were stressful, right? So someone might be listening that's done 5,000, but you get put in really unique, complicated situations and you find a way to solve it. And here we are. A lot of the times with the photography solution, you had a problem that needed to be solved all of a sudden in 3 minutes, right?
Right.
You got all day.
It's true. True. Nothing but time right now.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like more on the personal level for people to reflect that, like, you weren't just that thing. And if you're going to be something else, you were other things before. And again, you matter and you can impact the industry, each person. Like I believe it. And I'm not, I'm speaking to a pretty big audience, and, lean on each other as much as you can and be yourself. So yeah.
So I'm going to ask you just a couple completely random questions just to keep it lighthearted.
Sorry.
No, it's good. I've loved all your answers, and I love these conversations with people at your level that is such a good problem solver. Would you rather live 500 years in the future or 500 years in the past, and why?
Oof. Future, 100%. I think, I was kind of talking about how we operate kind of shifted, and why we've made some of the bigger moves we made in the last few months in the whole. But I am someone who wants, I want all the information that is available. If I have something from over here, like I want us all to be having the same conversation, because then, we can develop a thing together and find the best path forward. And that is, sorry, I just turned it back into the other thing, but yes, the future.
Would you rather always be 10 minutes late to everything or an hour early to everything?
I would rather be, that one's harder than the first one. Really? I would rather be early. I'm trying to think back on like how, I never want to have, if the focus is on me, I don't want people waiting for me. But it's more complicated, but yeah.
Would you rather have 5 mediocre assistants or 1 all-star assistant?
1.
And why is that?
Because from the way we work, I know that if I'm not communicating the best, someone who's a rock star at that can fix it, can figure out what I'm trying to say, ask the correct question, so we're on the same level, and then solve the overall problem. I think someone who works efficiently, if you have 5 people, mediocre, that's tricky variable there. I love having a lot of people around, but like, what qualifies a mediocre assistant versus a top level? Like, Mike Ryan's my first, and I've met some first. Like when we go to LA, there's some people that I'm just like, wow, that's cool. And like we share information all the time. There's a guy named there was JB Fitz for a while, but he does not even in the business anymore. Like Sherman Lee, if anyone out there knows who Sherman Lee, but like the first few times I worked with him, I was just like, literally the guy, like one time when I needed a thing, he knew I needed it and somehow like slid, like he was sliding into third base under the lights and popped up and went and had this thing. And it was just like, this eureka moment. So I would go with 1. And then like, it's communication. So if you have 5, you have 5 people, like 3 of them did something you wanted, but then someone was giving poor leadership to the whole, and then that slowed down the other 3. And then it just is an episode of Five Stooges.
So what do you think? Let's talk more about assistants, because I think this is a really good way to get your foot in this industry at the commercial level. What advice do you give assistants or feedback? And like, what do you look for in a great assistant?
For us, it's like to kind of get in the mix. It's tricky because we historically do our work wherever we do our work. I think like being local and doing what you're doing local, or being in a local that has the right amount of work is great. It's kind of a build, where will they fit in the whole of the team is important. Mike joined us in, I want to say it was the spring of 17. And I remember he was brought on by another great assistant in Philly, and he'll remain nameless because he's not an assistant anymore. And so so Mike showed up, and I just like, I looked at him, and I never do this, but I was like, what's that interesting haircut? You know, like something just so strange. And I was like, okay, well, we'll see how this goes. And then like literally by the I think it was the end of day 2, like he was getting on board with how we worked. And we had a situation. I'm in a creek. We're shooting this project for Panasonic Tough Books, and like I am trying to balance on some rocks, and I get some water over this, and literally the guy takes his shirt off and throws me his shirt, and I was like, what's weird, but it was incredible. And so, you know, he was like, he's gonna hear this story, but like that amount of like, solve this right now. You know, over time, you know, he kind of ended up coming in with us, and it was like us all getting on the same page of communication and seeing the like, hey, what can I do next? That resourcefulness was really important. And hey, if you don't understand anything that's going on, like, and this with everybody, like, ask the next question and ask the next question. Like, if someone's showing up on the first day, I don't expect them to know much at all. But I expect them to, and this goes back to the five assistants versus one superstar assistant. Like, I need to be able to put you in action and know that the loop is closed. So that's how that has shook out for us. And yeah, it's interesting, different regions and different locales, like how they operate when we come as out of towners. Like the LA crew again is like wizards. And worth every dollar. And they're also a lot of gratitude. So, you know, early on, if we're never worked with someone, I try to make, you know, our communications very consistent. Robert and some of the producers we work with a lot, like Lockbox, like they, you know, it's a lot of marching orders. And if someone is trying to be a big voice, or they're trying to put their priorities, whatever they might be, in front, that's when I'm not interested in that. So yeah, long-winded.
Yeah, no, that's one of the hardest things to do, because most assistants are creatives, and they probably are photographers, and they want to be a photographer. And that's the number one thing that I've seen sink an assistant. You know, maybe it's their first or second or third shoot, but when they start creative advice, it's not that it might be a bad idea. It's just chain of command.
Yeah.
It's like it can't be at that level yet.
And it's early. Mike was really, like awesome and kind of early on. I think that was one of his like strengths early, was like a positive energy and a general self-assurance in the emotional state. And as an emotional communicator, he was really strong. I don't know if that's like making a ton of sense. So that was strength. He added an energy to our group where we, believe it or not, could sometimes get a little high strung and like too much production and some of that things. So he would bring in a certain zen and I think that's like trying to see the whole of what you might be able to bring to the group or the table or the single photographer that is valuable. When I did my first few assisting gigs, I was still in college, and at that time I was still training. I threw javelin in college, and so we were doing a lot of Olympic lifting. And my value as an assistant for a year, that very early on, was like running with two of the old school generators in sand, and that was my value. So I was happy to have that. And if I had given creative advice to some of the photographers, I probably would have been slapped. But the people that were receptive, sometimes it was good. But for a while, it was carrying generators.
How does one get into javelin? Like, did your dad give you a javelin when you were 6? And then I've been since then.
Literally, I was. I picked up a stick in the woods, man, and it was with my dad. I shit you not. It was like, so I grew up in the country, and it was, we would cut our own wood. Like, we oversaw this like 300-acre wooded area, and it wasn't our wood, but when it would get all the timber taken, they'd leave the tops. And so we never paid to heat our house. My entire upbringing, we had outdoor wood stove circulating water. But we'd be out cutting wood, and like, you know, my dad was kind of helping another like family friend. It was a few years older, and then it was like I'm throwing sticks in the woods, and we had a lot of space. You know, practicing javelin in the city is hard. So when you have a 200-foot yard or 200 yard, which is something I never thought I'd say, it works out great. So,
well, that's awesome. So, you know, we've kind of we've talked about a lot of stuff. Where do you want to end this with actionable items? If you're looking for other people to participate, where can people go to find more information about what you're working on? Because in many ways, this seems kind of like almost like a Mozilla Firefox, like open source type of, you know, solution. So if anyone listening does have an idea or a way to help, like, how would you suggest that they maybe reach out to you or hit you up on social media?
I think, you know, our Instagram, I really like to channel people through there. We have not been particularly active in the last week, but the channel is wide open. We were really, really on it. And I love all the content of the last really 2 months. In the past week, we put out that first video, but like I said, we've been super grinding. So there's not something new today, but, you know, can send us a message through there. You know, there's I don't know how big the audience is, so I'm not sure. You can find us. I think on the whole, like leaving generally a takeaway message on this is try to see yourself, like, photography is still sacred. Photography will go on. You know, see yourself as something else and see what you can do to help somebody else. And in that process of helping someone else, you will learn something about yourself that is going to make you much stronger going forward. And you'll be able to communicate that. And who knows what'll come of it. You know, feel free, if you have a great idea and you want to bring it to the table to help us, you know, with what we're doing, feel free to email me. If I don't respond, it doesn't mean I don't love you. We're super busy, and I, in advance, appreciate everything. You know, try and see that stuff out there. It was a wild run. We had, like, right before it was the publicity launch week of the book, and we just had publicity. And then it was like, we tracked our Amazon numbers. We went from, like, I don't know, 300,000 to, like, cracking like in the upper hundreds or like 1,000 on Bookseller, and all of our photography categories, like, crushing it. And then you saw when, like, the nation got the first real big piece of news on that, it just went just the same. It was pretty wild. So, you know, like, spread the information. If you go watch that video, share that around, and keep an eye out. If you subscribe to our YouTube, that'll be an easy way to when we put that next one out in a couple weeks, you'll see that. We have, and it's on our website as well. But, you know, share information, share some comfort, and stay strong, and, like, literally mean this. I really mean this. Like, through this, like, us working together, we'll get through this. We'll get there. It'll be great.
Yeah, I'll put a lot of the links of this in the description of, you know, this is going to be on YouTube. It's going to be probably on Instagram. It's going to be on the podcast channel. We'll try and distribute as much as we can. And actually, you know, Zoom's been an incredible tool that I really underutilized. So, you know, I use that tool to see people. Don't just call people, but, you know, set up a Zoom account because they're free. And, you know, use that to check in on people, because that's just the very first part of what you're talking about. You've taken Zoom to a whole nother production level, which I'm super excited, you know, to see where that goes. But it's always great to talk to you. I mean, you produce work at the highest level.
Thank you.
You're one of the best creative problem solvers probably in the game right now. So thanks for taking the time to kind of, you know, swing by and hop on the podcast. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, this was awesome. I enjoyed the opportunity. Good to chat, and looking forward to doing it again soon.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Doctor, I'll see you in Zoom in a couple hours.
See you later.
All right, great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
All right, be well. Stay strong.
Well, the wiser fellow than myself once said, Sometimes you eat the bar, and sometimes the bar, well, eats you. Well, that's all she wrote for this one. See you next time. Catch you later on down the trail, dude. Now get out of here and start shooting.
Man, if I was really God, I'd make some popcorn appear. Right now. Just like bam, popcorn. Mmm.